One particular day, a young man would create something that would change his present and future of his life. He would create this in the simple confines of his bedroom, in a small house down in Macon, Georgia, where it led him to our city, Alpharetta. He would continue this journey of not giving up, whether it being soaked in poverty or not even having graduated high school. He would defy all odds of failure, as he had started from nothing to have created everything. This man is my dad, Michael Young. At the time, what was going through your head when you started a business?
I did not want to work for anyone else. I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit ever since I was younger. And as I was working out in the gym, I came up with an idea, and I took that idea and started my company by the name of Interactive Designs.
Why did you start this type of business?
The salon industry is an industry that we didn't set out to start in. We started out with a fitness program called ERIC, and ERIC stood for the Exercise Review Instructional Computer. And it would be a kiosk with a touchscreen computer in a gym, and people could go up and touch the screen, and it would show live video on how to perform an exercise correctly. So this was back in 1990, way ahead of the technology. But we pitched it to a couple fitness companies. One of them liked it. We created a demo. We took it to Chicago in 1990 at a fitness show. Even though everybody loved it, everybody said that the price was too expensive. We were asking $11,000 and $12,000 for it. Back in 1990, computers were around $4,000. So from that point on, our company was in limber mode. And then we got presented with the opportunity to create a salon program. And the opportunity was, if we create it, they would sell it. And I wasn't working, and so I took that opportunity.
So where did you start this business?
I started it out of my home, out of my bedroom, on a tiny desk next to the bed. And I would stay in there, and I would program and design and create 10, 12, 16 hours a day.
Where was this? Was this in Georgia or another state?
Marietta, Georgia. I went to school at Southern Polytech.
So what type of risks did you take in order to start this business?
Financial risk, family risks, because there's a lot of pressure between family because you're working all the time. There's a lot of stress. The financial pressures are great when you only have one salary coming in and you're spending thousands of dollars on credit cards. And at that time, we would just get credit cards and then we would just put debt on them.
Did you ever think that this idea that you had created in a small bedroom would come so far?
It came further than what I wanted. I would rather have it just be me, because I can only count on me. You can only count on yourself. Finding good employees is a challenging endeavor to take on. But it grew, but it took years for it to grow. Started in 1990. In 1991, we created the world's first Windows-based application, and we were ahead of Microsoft. Microsoft Access, the database program that everybody knows, didn't exist. So we had to write our own database program. And we took it to a trade show in the summer of 1991, and the program flopped so bad we had to take it off the show floor because the screens were locking up every time you touched the screen, and we had to redesign it and rebuild it.
So why did you specifically choose the software for salons?
I didn't choose the software. I didn't choose the salon industry. The salon industry chose me. One of my partners at the time went to college with a gentleman who was half owner, part owner of a tanning bed manufacturing company. And they were doing $4, $5, $8 million a year. And they had everything except software, and they wanted to create their own software. So they approached us. And we said, sure. I wasn't working, had no income. So if they sell it, I'll write it. And that's what we did.
As you said earlier, it's usually something happens. What made you want to create a business?
Well, I always thought, ever since I was young, and say knee high, I kind of always knew, I always had the ambition to do something and to create something. I was artistic, creative. So to me, it didn't matter what it was. But then I think how my childhood developed and coming from a broken family and how that had an effect on my life. And then how at a young age, I was pretty much forced to go out and get a job just to survive. Probably starting at the age of like 14. I think all that plays a role. In school, when I went to school, I always tried to work. I worked at a bakery, which my best friend parents owned, but I got fired from that. When our family broke up, just to say it nicely, it was that was a difficult situation. We all just kind of went our separate ways at a young age. When I was 16 years old, I was living on my own at a place called the Butler House in Macon, which no longer exists, but essentially it was a boarding house, and it was one room, probably 5 by 8 feet, cot in it, and you pay by the week. You get breakfast, and you take a bag lunch, and then you go do what you have to do. Anyways, and I needed a job, and my mother's good friend got me a job working for a place in Macon called Clark Memorials, and they created headstones. They create headstones. They still do to this day. And I got a job with them, riding on the truck, going out to the cemeteries and laying tombstones in the cemeteries. I started polishing the stone. And then I learned how to cut the stone. And then I learned how to sculpture the stone. And I learned all that on my own. I would stay late after work, and if I could come in on the weekend, and I would just practice my skill. And it got to the point to where I could take a piece of rock out of the ground, and I can turn it into pretty much anything I wanted to turn it into.
So what was your living situation at this time?
Well, considering the job didn't pay that much, I lived in a house a couple miles away, a 2-bed, 1-bath house off a main road, which was a dirt road, very small, maybe 500 square feet, in a not so pleasant area, paying $75 a month, and lived there. And I would walk. I didn't have a car. I would walk to work and walk home. Sometimes not enough money for food. There was a pear tree out front that supplied me with a meal occasionally.
Was it always successful? Throughout the almost 3 decades you've been working, and were there any times where you just had really low lows and you could barely afford a salary, and you had really high highs where you're okay, this is great, I can take in more money?
Absolutely. First of all, let me tell you, everybody in their life is going to have a door open for them by somebody. You might not realize it until it's too late, or you realize it when it happens, a door opened for me when I met Patty, the mother of two of my children. And I took that opportunity. And then when I was in college, I needed to work and I wanted to work, and I got a job with IBM. That was another door that opened for me. So here I go from high school dropout, living pretty poverty level, maybe below poverty level, and in most cases, starting college at 25, getting hired by IBM while in school. And it was at IBM was another door, because it was at IBM that I learned so much about computers, because computers were just on the forefront. It's all timing. I started college in 1984, started working for IBM around 1986. I owned IBM's very first computer, so we were on the forefront of technology. Even back in the mid-'80s, I was working on video on computers. That was 20 years before people saw video on computers. And I was working with touchscreen computers back in the mid-'80s and computers that could talk. And that just builds up confidence. That led to the creation of ERIC, which led to the creation of SunTouch, which went on to the creation of SalonTouch.